So we are here at Intel Vision 2024. Markus, thanks for your time. So we have a great topic to discuss about today. We'll talk about developers, sandbox, talk about how we can use AI in companies, experiment it, and then bring it to scale. Markus, can you tell us about you and your journey at Intel and what you're doing today?
Of course. Thank you for hosting me, first of all. Pleasure to be here. And I joined Intel just a little over 2 years ago. I was at NVIDIA before. I built out NVIDIA's GPU cloud infrastructure. And coming into Intel, the focus has been on the Intel Developer Cloud, as well as other cloud services like Granulate, which is used to optimize. It's an autonomous performance optimization service. And for the Intel Developer Cloud, the focus has been on two different areas. One has been the sandbox, really providing access to the latest and greatest Intel technology quickly, both the hardware and the software. And then also as part of that, also really engaging with developers, engaging with customers, engaging with academia, so they can come in and they can bring in their workloads, they can experience that early on, give us feedback. So when we actually start shipping, and typically we have like the latest 6th generation Xeon that Pat just announced this morning, that is already been running in the Intel Developer Cloud for several months now. Okay. So that means you get a preview into what's coming in 6 or 12 months from now. It hasn't even shipped yet, but it's already available in the Developer Cloud, and they can already test and test drive that and optimize for that. And then the other aspect is that also, we also have a commercial option, meaning that, especially with AI workloads, it's oftentimes not sufficient just to have a portion of a GPU or an entire system. Oftentimes customers want to train in a model, and they need hundreds, in some cases thousands of GPUs. Mm-hmm. And for that, we also have the ability then for them to scale up and run on these larger clusters in order to prove out their workloads. So we offer both of them.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So that's great opportunity for, the CEOs and managers who are watching us now to bring AI into their business in the best way, basically, by trying, experimenting, and then implementing what is necessary. Can you explain what can be the typical flow or journey from getting into the community and having access to this sandbox to scaling the AI and having the impact for the business?
Yeah, it's very straightforward. You go to cloud.intel.com, you sign up for it.
So can you say again slowly so that
cloud.intel.com
okay.
is our web address. If you just Google for Intel Developer Cloud, you will instantly find it.
Excellent.
And you just sign up for it, and oftentimes within minutes, customers start running their workloads. We have a broad set of options for the workloads. We have a bunch of tutorials, first of all, to guide you through that, to say, this is the kind of problem you're trying to solve, these are the kind of models you may want to consider. And then we also have containers that already have those models packaged up, so it's very easy to deploy. And then we provide a series of options. We have everything from a bare metal offering, where you come in and you have access to the entire system.
Okay.
We also
this is more technical, I guess, for more technical people?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So this would be, if you have your custom operating system and you really need access to the lower levels of the hardware, we can do that. We also have the operating systems vendor coming in. We have the hypervisor vendors coming in. They can run. They need to run on the physical, on the metal.
Yes.
But then also you have, somebody who just wants to get an AI researcher, data scientist. They don't care about the operating system, about the drivers, about the firmware, and all these things. They can just come in at the MLOps layer. We have Converge, for instance. It's our in-house MLOps solution.
Okay.
And they can just start training and inferencing, fine-tuning, and they can immediately start there without having to worry about the Kubernetes layer, or the lower levels of the operating system and things like that. So it's a quick way to get value out of it, depending on no matter where you're coming from, right? Whether you're like super low-level technical person who wants to optimize the operating system or their software version, low levels of the stack, or you just want to quickly try something out and you just want to run a high-level AI workload. Everything else in between, we can offer that.
Excellent.
And we can offer that immediately, essentially. You don't have to worry about sample shipping or things like that.
That's very clear. Yeah, does it? So we talked about data scientists, we talked about IT people in the sense. Yeah, okay. Do we also accept business users? Is it? I mean, are there some part of it that are user friendly that do not require technical knowledge?
Right. And that's what we're doing essentially with these upper level services. So the other thing we have, I failed to mention, is we also have a Jupyter notebook offering as well. So you can just come in and you can just run your high level workloads through the Jupyter notebook without again understanding the lower levels of the stack.
Got it.
And you can just run it, and you can then also, the other thing you can do, you can compare the different instance types. You can see how well does it run on the latest current generation Xeon, how well is it going to run on the next generation Xeon, the patch just announced. You can compare how it compares to how well it runs on the accelerators, and based on that, you can make your business decision. Patch just announced this morning we're going to have the official E-cores, which is all focused on low power consumption, lots of cores. We're going to have 144, and then later on, even more cores. All of that will then be. You can instantly compare this to the E-core version of the 6th generation versus the P-core version, and you can instantly evaluate and decide what's the right solution for you. Okay. The other thing to note here is that, especially with AI, I think there's a lot of demand. I have a lot of people coming in. They want to do something in the AI space. It's very expensive. There's a limited amount of capacity, and it tends to be very expensive for them. Intel, with our Gaudi product line, we're aggressively getting into the accelerator space. Mm-hmm. In many cases, it means that customers can come in, they can significantly reduce the cost of the inferencing or the cost of the training. And in a lot of cases, it means the difference between I cannot afford this service, it's just simply too expensive, versus, okay, now it's at a cost where it's affordable, and I can actually offer this as a service to either my end customers or to my internal customers.
Got it. Are you talking about in production or in the sandbox?
Both, actually.
Both.
So what we do, we have customers, we had a number of customers also this week that are also, they started off with a sandbox, they tested things out. A lot of times then customers go and they will...
That's very useful. I'm showing the benefits of it, because very often you would, if your team is trying and testing and experimenting some AI models, you would need to go to the cloud and subscribe to some compute model that can be very expensive. Right. And when you're just trying and experimenting and you get a bill of a few thousands of dollars,
that's right.
You're not happy.
That's right.
But if you can access a sandbox where you can try all this with minimum or no costs associated, that's amazing.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, when you think about a large AI cluster, in a lot of cases, customers spending tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure, in data centers, in liquid cooling, and you name it. So the ability to test this out without committing to like 2 or 3 or 4 years of consumption, you would come in, you test it out for a few weeks, for a few months, depending on what you're trying to do, and then you can go and you can then deploy this on your own premises, right? So that gives you a lot of flexibility and helps you reduce the risk of that future deployment. And then again, for those customers, in a lot of cases we have customers coming in, they want to get access to our latest accelerators, and they're just happy with doing what they're doing. And in those cases, they can just continue to then, commercially continue to subscribe to that, and they can just continue running this for the production purposes as well. We offer that option.
With the costs, with an affordable cost compared to
of course. Otherwise, I'm going to be bankrupting Intel if I give out free large, training classes to people. To give you an idea, the large training classes, like we're talking about multiple megawatt of power, compute power, of power that's consuming. It's tremendous amount of compute, tremendous amount of networking bandwidth, tremendous amount of storage capacity. If I give out a free cluster to everybody, I'm going to single-handedly bankrupt the company. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to be bankrupt for that.
Definitely.
So it's an exciting journey, and it's really for us. Just the learning. I think it's a two-way street. One is we want to expose the technology early to customers.
Yes.
But then also the other one is we want to learn from customers, right? Especially in the AI space.
Yes.
The workloads are changing so quickly.
Yeah.
And with the Developer Cloud, we have the opportunity to instantly learn from that, to see, okay, these are new workloads. How well do they work in this environment? What is working, what's not working? Can we optimize the software? We can quickly adjust. So the speed at which we can move is so much faster.
You have customer feedback
if we didn't have this. Exactly. Customer, community feedback, customer feedback. We have research coming in from academia. They're trying out,
That's great.
And also Intel Labs, we have a lot of people internally that are power users of my infrastructure. Yes. And again, they publish articles, they work with various thought leaders in the industry. We had Andrew Ng this morning from Landing AI. He's doing his latest cancer research. That's all running in the Developer Cloud.
All running on
Gaudi 2.
In this environment.
Correct. We have this collaboration also with Dell. Dell has a bunch of their systems that are available in the developer cloud now. So you get the latest, the Dell systems that are available today. So Dell customers can come in through the developer cloud, experience the Gaudi on a Dell system, with the Dell systems, and then they can make the purchasing decisions accordingly.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it's been very fruitful. It's really created as a platform to interoperate or to collaborate with the entire ecosystem of developers, of academia, of customers, really everybody. Students, we have a ton of students coming in through our notebook service. We've done a lot of hackathons, for instance. They come in, and it's very expensive, right, to go to a CSP and buy all these GPUs. With us, they can just come in and they can get access to a bunch of GPUs.
That's a good thing.
To their hackathons.
You're helping hackathons. You're helping students and researchers.
Right. Yeah, we've had thousands of users.
How many users?
Yeah, we have thousands of users. We're in the
thousands. Yeah, okay. And how many and how long has it been?
Oh, we just announced this at Innovation last year. We just launched it. It's just a few months ago. So we're we're still in infancy.
That's kind of your baby, we can say.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, wow.
It's fun. It's really exciting to see that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I see that as an opportunity to innovate because you have quick feedback from the users, the clients.
Right. That's right. Yeah, and it allows us to innovate in multiple directions, right? It allows us to innovate up and down the stack, but then we can also innovate. Pat was talking about the Ultra Ethernet Consortium, new networking. We interoperate with the networking vendors. We can interoperate with the storage vendors. So this gives us a platform then to bring in. It's not just about what's happening inside the Gaudi, what's happening inside the box. It's a whole system. It's a supercomputer, which means it's the software-defined networking. It's the software-defined storage that we're using. It's that whole interaction at the system level that allows us where we can innovate actually.
Excellent. What is your, based on your understanding of how companies use those systems, which recommendations would you give to CEOs or managers who want to start with AI or who want to scale AI?
Yeah, I think the question is always, what is the killer use case for my business, right?
Yes.
Looking
for the right use case, starting with the right use case.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's, and I think that's where I think it's just challenging today because, there's all these new capabilities, new tool, new toy, what do I do with it, right? So I think there's a lot of...
And maybe you might have, as a CEO, have in mind many use cases and which one to prioritize, which one...
Correct. But I think there's a lot, and also the nice thing is also within the company, we're very aggressively using AI as well, like in the fab. I don't know if you saw the demo this morning.
Yes.
Where we're using this in the fab, to speed up our defect detection of, equipment that goes down, trying to figure out what went down, what happened, look at the history and things like that. And there's a lot of other use cases, obviously, for our own code development, for the software development, for the hardware development. We're looking at all aspects of the company where we're applying it. And, sometimes it's hard to predict, is it going to work? How much of a difference is it going to make? Is it worth it? And then, the next question, of course, becomes, great, I found this killer use case. I'm going to just, trying to roll this out across all my employees. How do I make sure it doesn't bankrupt me? Right?
Yes.
That's the other interesting part. And that's, I think, also where it becomes critical. And again, that's where, through our Gaudi systems, we are very aggressively, pricing is very, very aggressive compared to what you would get from some of the competition.
Okay.
And in a lot of cases, we have customers seeing a significant boost in performance. But from a cost perspective, it's significantly more price performant than some of our competitors actually. And that is, because in a lot of cases, great, I love it, I love this new sports car, but I can't afford it.
Yes.
It's like, great, I love this new sports car, but I get it at the price that's, more like a traditional basic vendor that can offer that to me. So that's super attractive, I think, for a lot of people, for a lot of the customers.
Excellent.
Yeah,
that's very clear. That's very clear. Yeah. Maybe now, to you more personally, what passionates you in all this? What is your vision for the future?
Yeah, so I've worked in infrastructure for over 20 years now.
Okay.
Spent a lot of time at Sun Microsystems, working on Solaris, on the operating system, working on storage, on the CFS storage, and a lot of what at some point a lot of the enterprise workloads just weren't growing that fast, right? From an infrastructure perspective, a lot of it was about consolidating existing workloads, and it's very clear that the growth just wasn't there. I think in this case, it's the opposite, right? It's that, the amount of money, in the enterprise, oftentimes you would spend 10 times more money on the licenses, on the licensed software, compared to what you would spend on the infrastructure.
Yes.
With AI, it's the opposite. It's, the entire stack is, for the most part, is open source, and a lot of the, especially startups that I talk to, I talk to people as like 4 people in the garage that have been working for, they got funded 6 months ago,
Yes.
and they're spending millions of dollars on infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right? So as an infrastructure person, it's like that's heaven. That's amazing. And the problems that I'm trying to solve with networking and storage and compute, those are really difficult infrastructure problems, and that's really challenging and fun. So really, I'm very much enjoying that. And then of course doing this, I mean, the other things also what we're doing with the developer cloud is also we're building these supercomputers that are optimized for these AI workloads.
Okay.
But we're also making it available as a cloud service securely, where we build these large clusters.
When you talk about supercomputers, are you talking about
like a large Gaudi training cluster?
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's a supercomputer, it's multi-megawatt supercomputer,
okay.
right?
Those are available through the platform?
That's right.
Okay,
we make it available.
wow.
Yeah, you can start with a small VM and you can go up to a large multi-megawatt cluster and everything else in between.
Okay.
And then the other thing is also I make it available as a cloud service, which means I can actually partition that supercomputer into smaller chunks dynamically. So it's an interesting challenge because building supercomputer is hard, building a cloud service is hard, building a supercomputer that you make available as a cloud service is double hard.
Yes.
So some really interesting software challenges in terms of software-defined networking to make sure that customers get all this compute capacity, they get the best possible performance, but it's also fully isolated from the other tenants that are using the same cluster. And the storage and the network and the compute, all these things have to be fully separated and fully isolated.
Privacy and...
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, and that's also talking about the future. So the other thing is just the expansion. So I think for the developer cloud, one is continue to build out the services. We have, as I mentioned, bare metal service. We have VMs as a service. We have Kubernetes service. We have we're going to continue to build out our MLOps capabilities with the managed kubeflow. That's one of the items that's on the list. And then we're just going to build out just the raw capacity with tens of thousands of additional accelerators they're building out. And then the other dimension is the geography, getting into other geographies, getting into Europe.
For the time being, it's only available in the US?
Currently, yes. Well, it's available for any users, but physically it's still located in the US. Okay. But increasingly, because of data sovereignty, and for a lot of the workloads, I mean, when you're training this large model, it may take you a week or so to train it. So if it takes an extra 200 milliseconds because you're located on the other side of the world, it's not a big deal. Even for inferencing, the stack latency is often, because those models are so big that, the extra latency they're getting even across continent is not necessarily prohibitive. In my previous life at NVIDIA, I was working on things like cloud gaming. Like you want on every millisecond would be,
definitely.
A good gamer would complain that, I'm getting rerouted by a few extra miles and I'm sensing the difference. Versus here, it's not that sensitive. But the thing that's more important is just the data sovereignty. EU especially, you have GDPR, you have new regulations. So I think, and then Asia, the same thing. We're seeing a lot of interest from customers in Asia, and increasingly also they're looking at, especially if government is involved, if academia is involved, sometimes they want their infrastructure locally. They don't necessarily want to rely on it being in a different continent.
Yes.
But those are probably the three critical items. And of course there's additional compliance and security and other kind of requirements that I'm also working on in parallel.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's an exciting time. It's just, being in infrastructure, I feel like this is probably the best time in 30 years or so. It's really fun.
That's very funny. Yes. Yeah, very exciting, and there is no limit. Huh? In terms of what you can provide, enable companies to do.
And the speed,
everything is in the cloud.
The speed at which things are evolving, the workloads are evolving, and it's just mind-boggling how quickly these frameworks are evolving. It's really fascinating.
We're talking more and more about edge.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something in the cloud for edge, or
there is also. We have some of the
for
edge
companies
devices
who want to try and experiment and implement edge.
Right. Yeah, we just announced our NVIDIA Edge solution, Edge computing solution, which was announced at the Mobile World Congress a couple of months ago, and that's a big focus for us. I mean, it's really the way, if you go back to
how do you embed it into the cloud developer? Is it
so? So we have edge device available, right? Some of those EOD flavors of the infrastructure that are typically deployed at the edge. Okay. So developers can come in and they can do test drive those on that infrastructure as well.
Excellent. And this is something you can ship for experiment, for example, or
I mean, if it's latency sensitive, if it's latency sensitive, ultimately,
Yes.
and they're in a particular place that needs to be within 100 miles.
Yes.
It's I'm not building out a very dense net
Yes.
infrastructure. Ultimately, they will, but if it's just a basic first level of testing, and again, even with the edge, I mean, oftentimes you still need to do the training for those models that you want to deploy in the edge. So there's oftentimes a hybrid case where it's like, great, do my training in that
In the
large
cloud,
cloud cluster,
and then
and then I'm going to deploy a model
Got it.
on wherever that edge location is, depending on what you're doing. And again, within edge, you have a broad spectrum, right? You have the far edge, the near edge, where it's like, you have a point of sales kind of edge versus more, in some cases it just means it has to be in this country or in this region. So there's a wide spectrum there as well, depending on the workload.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking a lot of what could be next.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, and also as you saw from Pat this morning, probably, right? I mean, the goal is to, we're looking at this holistically in terms of, what are we doing on the PC side, on the client side, what are we doing on the edge computing, and what are we doing on the data center side, and drive these common infrastructure, common stacks across, so you can deploy things and you can optimize between, as much as possible. If you want to move stuff onto the client, and with our AI PC, you have all this extra compute power now available on our client, on our, it's embedded already in the client CPU. And then of course you have the edge, and then you have the central data center. And the more you can do in the edge, of course, that's a huge cost factor, right? If I'm providing a service, and the service, I just have the control plane sitting in the cloud, and all the heavy lifting happens in the client, that's a lot of cost savings. If that workload, I have to run this all in the central data center, there's a lot of extra cost that I'm incurring versus moving this on the edge. And then if it's versus on the client, and then vice versa, if it's on the client, I may get better response, I may get lower latency because it's on the client. I don't have to worry about network latencies and things like that. Right. So that's a critical one. And again, with the AI PC, you're going to have so much more compute power. It's going to make it so much easier then to move these things onto the client.
Thank you, Markus. That was really exciting to hear all those news and all those development and capabilities that you're giving to companies. Any word for the end, if you want?
No, I can just
Okay.
recommend to everybody, go to cloud.intel.com. Hopefully they were slow enough this time.
Yes.
And just try it out, and we'd love to host you there. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Markus.
Thank you.